Hello and welcome to the Enquiry Podcast. This is a place where we are going to dive into everything that it is to live your life as medicine. So how to follow the breadcrumbs and the signposts in order to be guided to your purpose and to your freedom. How to use your life's challenges as the opportunities that they are for your own healing and growth. My name is Nerida Mills. I am your host. I am a psychosomatic practitioner. I am a coach, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here. I am very excited to get this party started. So let's get going. All right. So welcome everybody to this episode of the Enquiry Podcast. My name is Nerida, and I am so excited to have Judy King join me today for this episode. Yay! Yeah. All of the jazz fingers. I love it. I love it. So Judy King, I'm going to read this out for those who are watching and see my eyes moving because I just want to really honour the work that this woman does and everything that she brings. And there's a bit in here, so it's quite exciting to have you on. So Judy King is a powerhouse self-mastery coach. Love that. Speaker and creator of Richness Without the Hustle, helping solopreneurs to lead boldly, trusting deeply and unlocking true richness. With over a decade of experience, Judy blends human design, gene keys, energetics, and mindset mastery to guide entrepreneurs in building soulful, profitable businesses that fuel their lives without the burnout. Very important. Known for her bold, empowering approach, Judy shows women how to embody their unique genius, magnetize high-paying clients, and create lasting impact in their industries. Amen, sister. That sounds amazing.
Yay.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. It's so important.
Thank you.
I would love to hear your journey around how you've kind of gotten here. I've had my own journey through, that hustle kind of culture and business, and then learning how that is actually quite unproductive realistically. So, and I think a lot of women come up against that. So I'm really, really glad to have you having this conversation today. A lot of my listeners are women and a lot of them are interested in business. So I think it's going to be really valuable for everybody who's listening in. So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be able to have this conversation with you as well. And a bit about me. I grew up in Sydney. So I'm originally from Sydney, Australia. My accent sometimes doesn't sound like I'm from Australia, although I have been back here for 5 years. So maybe I am sounding more like an Aussie again. I actually spent 17 years in Southeast Asia.
Oh, lovely.
And my background was health and fitness, and I traveled the world. I was on big stages for the biggest training companies in the world, like Les Mills and Life Fitness and TRX, and based primarily in Bangkok, and just living an amazing life, like doing what I loved. I was very fortunate. I guess I moved in alignment with my energetic type, as we do. Yep. There's parts of us that do and parts of us that can be conditioned out of it. But I always followed what I was passionate about. And I was a little bit rebellious, and I didn't just follow my friends at school that went to uni and did something that they just were kind of pulling out of nowhere. And I was like, I know that I want to work in the fitness industry, and I went and did my fitness cert and got straight into it. And when I moved to Southeast Asia, just amazing opportunities landed for me. It was the biggest shift. So like actually leaving Australia and moving to Bali at the time was 2001 was actually my spiritual awakening. I didn't need ayahuasca for my spiritual awakening. Was leaving my
Mama
own
Bali,
country.
she's quite potent in and of herself, right?
She is, yeah. And, in my mid-20s, and our circumstances were pretty intense and didn't know if we could come back. And so it was, I at the time was competing in Miss Fitness competitions globally, like internationally, world titles, and was training to really take that to I wanted to get my pro card. But when everything happened in our personal life that shifted that, we sold our personal training business, we moved to Bali, and I stopped everything. And so I hit the massive grief, depression, the depths of pain. And I was so supported by Bali, by the land. And really opened myself up to meditation. And that's where my journey started. But then one thing led to another, and I again followed my intuition, and I was called to these exciting places and amazing opportunities landed in my lap, and I kept saying yes, and it just was this great life. But as time went on and it got to, I guess, the end of my career, so I retired from the fitness industry in 2017. My daughter was 2. So I separated from my ex-husband and then was with my new partner. We've got our daughter. We're still together today. But at that time, 8 weeks after I had her, because of our situation, 8 weeks before I'll kind of backtrack a little bit. At the time we were living in Jakarta, and I was working my last day. I was consulting for this company. I'd done a year of contract and I had another year to go. We'd literally just moved into our new house, set it all up, baby room, all the things. And my boss calls me in 2:00 in the afternoon on my last day. I'm literally traveling the next morning to Bangkok to have a month of rest and relaxation and practice my hypnobirthing and just have a really easeful 4 weeks before birthing a baby. And he says, "You're fired. We're cancelling your contract." And so everything we knew just got taken from us, our car, our driver, our home, our money, our cash flow, our income. And so 8 weeks after I had my daughter, I was back into the fitness industry. I was traveling to Korea, doing amazing things, but it wasn't the plan. And I kind of pushed through. And as I was doing that for that couple of years, it felt so out of integrity with me. I was traveling away from my daughter that broke my heart every time. And I was preparing for workshops and feeling like I'm done with this. Like, I don't want to do this, but forcing myself to do it. And so I didn't realize at that time that I was actually probably already really, really exhausted and really burnt out after a decade really of traveling and being a manifesting generator who loved chaos and drama. I created a lot of that, and my nervous system was always on a high. And I lived in crazy cities. I lived in Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh City, and 4 million motorbikes going crazy in Jakarta. And so it was like my nervous system was fried, and I didn't know it. I didn't have that kind of level of connection to my body. So very disconnected from my body, even though I had a good connection with my body physically because that was what I did. So movement and things, but emotionally, no. And so I was already exhausted without knowing it, and just being so driven, having so much willpower. And so then the first year in my business, I just went all in, and I was going 100 miles an hour. I couldn't rest. I was the main income earner, and I literally was working 50 to 60 hours a week, pushing, driving, making it happen, and great success, created a full schedule with one-on-one clients and maxed out with my clients. But I was so empty because I thought, far out, like I did this so I would actually get to spend time with my daughter and not be away from her. And that's not how it looks, and that doesn't feel very good. So I was kicking back a bottle of wine most nights, so anxious, so stressed out to the max, and unable to rest and unable to relax. And we did holidays and we did cool things and we kind of lived a great life, but yeah, it was so stressful. And at the end of that, so it was September in 2018, and it's like Friday night, I'm sitting on the edge of my bed crying, and Curtis comes in, my partner, and he's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just feel so lost. I don't know who I am. This is just all too much. I can't do this anymore. I'm so exhausted." And I said, "I'm done. Like, I don't want to speak to another person again. I don't want to coach another person. Can everyone just leave me alone?" And I asked my intuition. And so I was really exhausted. And again, not really associating or understanding how exhausted I was. But I asked my intuition for guidance, and my intuition guided me back to Australia. And it was like, "Australia, move back to Australia." And I was just like, fuck no. That's not the plan. The plan at the time was spend 6 months in Spain, like move to Spain, spend 6 months of the year there, and another 6 months of the year traveling, coming to Asia, Australia, USA, which is where Curtis is from. But I knew it was the message. I knew I was being called. I knew I had to listen to that and follow it. And so I said to Curtis, I'm going to Australia. Brooklyn and I are going. If you want to come, you can come. But we're going. And we all rocked up and landed literally 2 months later in November. And Mum greeted us at the airport, and we had our 4 suitcases and a few boxes kind of on the way, and really landed in Australia with not a lot of money. And it was the end of 2018. As we know, what followed the year later, 2019, hit with COVID and all the things. And
any live events you were planning on having?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so I just, it was kind of through that I still really didn't have a deep connection or awareness or get support around what was going on in my body. And I kind of dabbled with people that I knew, naturopaths and things. What do you think's going on? Get blood tests. And they're like, oh, tell me a few things. And I'm like, I'll just keep going. And actually for me, COVID was a blessing in so many ways, with us being able to rent, because I had no rental history. It was like I was non-existent here because I was away for so long, Curtis not being from here. So it kind of opened up the opportunity for us to rent Airbnbs, and I relaunched my coaching business, because prior to that, after a break and doing some other things, I was able to realize what I'm here for is this work. I'm a phenomenal coach. I love it. It lights me up so much. And if I'm not coaching, it's like I don't feel alive within me. It's like I can't not do it, right? And so, yeah, I relaunched my business. It was Easter weekend in 2019, my Be Brave challenge, and it was packed. And it was like everything was firing, and it all happened really quickly. But what happened from there was I went back into my old way of building business, which was the only way that I knew. I learned from my mom to work really hard. My mom basically raised us 4 kids with my stepdad, but has separated from my dad when I was 6 years old. And so a lot of responsibility for her. And she worked as a teacher, but she taught tennis. She ran the tennis courts. She was a cake decorator. She's a textile and design teacher. So she would make clothes and do all these things. Like, was literally never sitting down. And so I learned that from her. And I love that I learned that from her. I actually quite like working hard. I love to work. And but obviously the flip side of that, sometimes the thing that we're really good at and the thing that we love actually is not always that healthy for us. And so I just started to put on one thing after the other, one offer after the next. And I had 2 parts of my business too. I had a coaching business and a training business. So I was running NLP trainings, retreat style, which I had to then bring online, and the coaching and programs and one-on-one and all of it. And again, I hit it was chronic exhaustion, like chronic adrenal fatigue, because my adrenals were so shot for so many years prior. And my body was screaming at me to stop. It was like my intuition was just like, stop. And I started to slow down and pull back, and it felt really uncomfortable. And I started to see where I was actually really over-delivering, over-giving, people-pleasing in a very discreet way, because I was such a rebel. I was like, I'm not a people-pleaser. I'm like, I do what I want.
It's amazing how insidious people-pleasing actually is, though, when you fully check yourself. As to all of the decisions that we make that aren't actually what we want, but we're making them to placate or to keep the peace or to connect.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And then you bring family into the mix and a daughter into the mix, and then it's a whole nother level of
all of that
where those patterns play out. And it's your child. So well, I think women are ingrained to sacrifice themselves for their children. And, that's definitely.
It's interesting. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. Wayne Dyer talks about it. So women have innately in them, primarily, outward focus up until about the age of 40. So from, our late teens to our early 40s, we're outward focused. Everything is about everybody else, and making sure that everyone outside of us is okay. Because obviously, if you're raising kids in the wild, you need to have an eye on everything all of the time. And, obviously it's a primal thing, whereas men are self-focused. But then at 40, it flips. So women become inwardly
Interesting.
focused
No, I haven't
and men
heard that.
become outwardly focused. And so they focus on contribution and we go, hang on a second, enough is enough. It's my time.
I totally resonate with that. I feel as though everything that I've been through my 40s has been to bring me back into myself. That inward thing that you just spoke about is like everything that I feel I've gained a lot of weight, and I feel like all of that and my adrenal fatigue and what I've had to navigate through that has guided me in. And I know that's the gift in it. And sometimes it's like, fuck, I wish it didn't have to be this way. Yet it is, right? Like we're all going to have things that we're navigating. And so, yeah, just to wrap up very quickly, because I have been saying a lot of my story, but as I started to slow down, then some big things started to happen as well. Like I lost a really good friend, and then a year later, I lost my ex-husband and my mum 11 days apart. And so that really took me to my knees. It was like the first time in my life that I actually really allowed myself to go into such depth of emotion, because I literally couldn't function. I was laying, just in bed and crying my eyes out in bed, and would kind of transition from there to the couch. And I had to pull back most of my coaching, not all, but almost all, and go inward. And yet at the same time, that supported me to slow down and rest and kind of really nurture myself a lot more. And it also, that spaciousness, that time of rest and being with myself and self-inquiry and having the space to actually go more deeply within, because I'm not focusing externally on my clients anymore. Yes, my family, but not having so much there I had to take care of and hold space for outside of me, that it allowed me to really go into those emotions and have spaciousness to reflect and go, oh, like what hasn't been working? And I could see, it was like this clarity just opened up for me of how I'd been doing things, and I knew something needed to change. And that's when human design came into my life in a very deep way. I had come across it and dabbled in it a little bit a couple of years prior, but in the beginning of 2022, I just went all in with it, and have literally, I've been embodying the work every single day, teaching it, working with it with myself, and using it to shift how I do things and how I lead in my life. And I'm really grateful for that, because it gave me this access point to be able to be guided by, it's like, it's helpful to understand, my energy as a Mani Jan is, I love to do a lot of things and I love to be busy and I move really quickly and right? But also the element of my centers and my root center is undefined. There's no wonder I created adrenal fatigue in the way that I did. And I need rest. And, it's like really understanding and honoring and learning how to play with my energy in a much different way and decondition the way that I'd learned and the way that I'd operated for such a long time. And so that's what's enabled me to be able to shift the dynamic, shift the way that I've functioned in my business, and why I'm so passionate about it, and why my movement is called Richness Without the Hustle, because it's my journey and it's still my journey today. I'm on the path with,
right, I imagine.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I actually came across human design, goodness, how long ago was it now? Probably 2020, 2021, around then.
Yeah.
And, kind of dabbled with the surface level stuff for a while. And then I finally found someone and I was like, can you please unpack this for me? Because I have no idea what I'm doing. And just got a really, like a mini unpack. But one of the things that I was told in it, as I'm a generator, and as a generator, I'm a responder to life. And so up until this point, like all of the reasons that I'd given myself around why I wasn't successful to the degree that I wanted to be in my business were things like, I don't plan enough. I'm not like organized enough, like all of these things that everybody else was kind of like, you need to be better with these specific things. And then when I learned that about myself, I was like, it's actually not about having a plan for me. It's about having some structure for sure, but having the freedom to be able to respond to what is alive in the moment is actually where I excel, which is my natural default patterning that I had been fighting against this whole time. And so it really gave me permission to let go of that story around, it's because of this thing. It's like, well, it's probably actually because I'm trying to do that thing. Rather than just embracing my natural flow of energy. It was very interesting. It created just that one piece created quite a big shift for me as to how I was treating myself and relating to myself in regards to my business and to, eventually my profession, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very powerful. That's one of the foundational elements within the chart that, it's so easy to get very quickly and adjust and understand the energy, and then look back and start to connect dots with, oh, actually in those moments I was trying to force it. I was trying to make it happen. I was trying to, it's like I used to do it too, where I would be like, I need to post something today, but then I'm not in response. I'm just like, what do I need to post? And then I don't have any inspiration. I don't have anything coming in to be inspired, to gather, to be then able to respond. And so I would then go looking outside, and part of that was because I'm trying to run my strategy. I need the inspiration externally to then be able to go, oh yeah, I can speak about that. Oh yeah, I can speak about that. But then what can happen is generators can then go, oh, I'm just like going to copy that person. Whereas if you like, it's not wrong to get inspiration from outside. We can do that. We can actually set it up and engineer it if we need to, right?
I do that with prompts. Prompts are my friend on that. Give me a prompt
absolutely.
of a question, and then bang, my inspiration taps in and I can flow.
Exactly.
But if somebody says to me, replicate that post that other person did, then I'm like,
it's like,
what do you mean?
Yeah. So I'm so glad that and one of the other things I love that you said that I hear every day with clients is it's a permission piece.
Yeah.
Right? Like massive permission. And sometimes I think, why do we need permission? But we're very evidence-based people, right? Yeah. And sometimes when we have something tangible that we can grab onto that go, yeah, that makes sense for me. And then we can connect some dots and we can use that as a way to reflect and know ourselves better. That's the power of this work. That's the power of understanding our chart. And like what you said, a lot of times people get introduced to it. They go, yeah, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this type. And they kind of like very surface level, but yeah, going deeper in, even like what you did. Of course, there are many other layers of depth to it, but just that, I'm so glad that you were able to shift that for you. And then that what happens is now you get to move through life in your business with so much more flow, right?
Absolutely. It's such a fundamental piece for me now. And, having that understanding was a piece of it. My own health journey was another piece of it, right? And the body will teach what we are unwilling to learn.
Yes. That's what's happening to me right now.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. I have learned to surrender to my body now. It's taken some time, but I have learned to surrender to my body, and the wisdom that those lessons kind of hold, because it is often the case of, like what you're saying, you're a very determined person. You're quite stubborn in what you're going after. And I think probably the exercise and things that you were doing was probably taking the edge off the amount of activation your body was actually in all of the time. It was kind of just keeping you below that complete burnout for a long time. So quite interesting to unpack it that way. But yeah.
Can I ask you a question? How did you... I mean, I think surrender sometimes can be a process. I feel like I've been surrendering for the last 10 years, but how did you surrender to your body? What does that look like, and what does that mean?
Well, I mean, partly my body took away any opportunity for me to do anything else, like it really did. But initially, even in that process, I still fought it for a time, and I still really wanted to be in control, and my head wanted to be in charge for a long time. And I've got some amazing strategies around that that are super unhelpful. But one of the things that has helped me a lot is to really recognize that there has, how do I say this? I can't see another way that I could have been taught what I've been taught through my body. because I am so stubborn, right? Because I am a generator. I do like go, go, go. I love to create things. I love to keep on moving. And so unless you take away my ability to do those things, it's unlikely that you're going to get me to stop and listen. So there's that piece of it. I'm also a psychosomatic practitioner, so I've really dove into the expression of the body and what it's communicating with us through our form, our ailments, our injuries, our issues, issues of the tissues. Quite interesting. And so that's kind of added a little bit of evidence to, do you know what I mean? It's just compounding these pieces to give me enough to go, okay, cool, my mind can chill the fuck out and we can just settle into this process that is happening for me rather than to me. And then just meet my edge in that, because it's not like the edge goes away, but we evolve the edge, if that makes sense. That's how I feel. Moving, letting the body guide where that edge is. And I went through a similar thing, like I put on a bit of weight for a period and struggled with that, because I had always like seen myself as this fit, strong person and healthy. Yeah. And so when the external wasn't reflecting that internal dialogue, it was quite challenging. And I was just like, I don't understand, like I'm doing all the right things, I'm eating all the right foods, like, it's this, which that conversation in and of itself kind of insinuates that the body's somehow punishing us, right? Which is not true. But that's what we go to. It's sort of like, why is this happening to me? So, but yeah, I'm very grateful for the education that I have had in the psychosomatic field, because I know that extra padding is an indicator of sensitivity. What's actually happening is you're tapping into your sensitivity, right? I've tapped into my sensitivity. And so initially when you open yourself up to that, which comes through that emotional experience, it is a lot, right? So we do need some form of protection mechanism whilst we're learning to hold our capacity in that new level of sensitivity. And I think that's where that extra layer of weight comes from in cases like that, when somebody's been through a massive shift and obviously a lot of grief. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of my experience of it. And I think it is like what we were talking about before, right? It's a practice.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
yeah. And I think the victim in that has also got a really important role. Like I'm not about shutting down my victim. I like to have pity parties where I get to just like dive into it for a period of time, short period of time. Let's dive in. Let's I really let myself feel victimized and controlled and it's unfair and all of the things. Yeah, love it. You really got to get there. Go. My partner is so amazing. He can tell by the tone of my voice. He's like, are you having a little bit of a day? Starts talking to me like a child, because the victim's a child, right? So he starts talking to me like a child, and I'm aware enough not to take that outside of the intention of it. And I say, I'm feeling like I just need to have some time, and I'll get into my sooky voice even. And he's like, well, if you're going to do it, come on, let's go do it properly. And he guides me to the couch and he gives me the remote control. And he's like, here we go. I'm tucking you in. Do you want me to get you some ice cream? Do you want some chocolate? What do you need?
I love it. What a man.
He's amazing. And then, the next day I wake up and I get on with my shit.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to allow for that too. And that's been a really fundamental shift for me in, I guess, that surrender piece, because before, when I was fighting, but part of what I was fighting was my victimhood, because I had the story going that I'm strong, that I'm, I can get through anything, I can push through anything, my mind over matter, all of these things. And I don't know about you, but when I was raised, my dad was in the Navy for many years, and so anything a guy can do, you can do. There's no excuse. Get up, show up, and get it done. That was my childhood.
Yeah, well, I immediately masculine energy was what I was feeling in the share before you mentioned your dad. Yeah,
100%. This has been a real massive reacquainting myself and maturing the dynamic between my masculine and feminine energies. Huge. It's been a huge piece.
Yeah.
I love that. So for you, one of the things, I mean, in your story, you've shared that from a young age, really, you've been on the stage. So
yeah, I have.
Is that something that you ever struggled with? Was there ever a part of you that had an edge around being seen in those ways? Or was there like a part that was okay, a part that wasn't okay? Like, how did you move through that element of being seen by the masses?
Oh, that's a great question. It's taking me into that. Because my first competition where I actually competed in Miss Fitness, I was 17. And I mean, prior to that, I was an athlete and I competed at national level in different sports. But just trying to think, because I mean, I was a gymnast and I hurt my foot and I went into the gym for rehab. And it was when I was in the gym and I saw the gym that I trained at had a lot of bodybuilders and Australian fitness competitors, like really amazing athletes, and was phenomenal. And I looked across at these women and I was just like, I want to do that. I want to do what they're doing. And so, yet when my dad left, I was really close with my dad. I felt like he was my everything. And yet when he left, I felt so abandoned. I felt so alone and not enough, because he wasn't staying for me, like as a 6-year-old, like that's the story that I made it mean. And so I feel as though I had a lot of confidence because I was a gymnast, and in fitness, you actually do a 3-minute routine. So you're showing strength and flexibility and gymnastic skills and all of that. And so that felt really natural and easy for me to do. And I loved it. I loved performing. I didn't really have a shyness or a fear around it from what I can remember. But probably underneath it all was this need for validation, this need for I'm enough. I'm enough.
Yeah.
And constantly working on the body, and especially like through my journey of my body, and reflecting back at how I treated my body and how I kind of punished it, I guess, like with the way that the dieting is. It's like, it's so unhealthy. It's so unbalanced. And just constantly tweaking and adjusting. And I would go to gymnastics training. This was more when I was in my 20s. I was Miss Fitness Australasia a couple of years in a row from 2000 to 2001. So I was in my 20s, and I would go back to gymnastics to work on my skills and things, but I would be dieting and getting ready for competition. And my coach, I'd be laying on the floor, like so exhausted. And my coach is like, what are you doing? Like, how are you going to train? How are you going to do this explosive, powerful, gym training when you're depleting yourself? Like it was just, there was just so much wrong about it. But, I think that redirection that I had that took me out of it, it was already, the signs were telling me that this isn't where I want to go. Because the last competition I had, I'd heard the judges were told not to place me first. It was like so political already at the level that at that national level. And it hurt me so much, because I was like, what are we being judged on? And then there was always this thing, it's a sport that gymnastics is similar, where, I mean, you've got criteria that they follow, but it's still very subjective, right? It's based on what that person sees and how they see it and what they think the criteria is. So I found myself feeling quite defeated by that, and thinking and realizing actually that's, the awareness that I don't need to be judged by these people and be validated. But definitely my journey, even as I was on the stages in Southeast Asia and, like this whole performance, even though we're teaching group fitness classes, a lot of the way that we taught and how we did it was, we're here to create an experience for people, and we're here to actually perform.
Oh, absolutely. Entertainment industry now, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I became friends with I became a DVD presenter, and I became friends with other DVD presenters. And I started to become so curious because I could see it in them. I could see the persona of who they were on stage and then the persona of who they were off stage. And I could see a lot of contrast, like a lot of insecurity. I personally didn't feel like I had such a big gap like that. I've always felt quite confident and quite secure in myself. Yes, of course, I have doubts and I can, like, I'm a human being, I feel not good enough and things, but I always had quite a lot of confidence in myself and wasn't like super afraid like in that way. But I definitely saw that. I saw that around me, and that's part of actually what led me into the personal development space, because I was like, wow, that's so interesting, And then as I became like the trainer of the trainers, I'm developing the training team, the presenting team in Southeast Asia, and then we started advanced modules, and we're working more with the persona and their belief systems and things like that in the trainings that we did. And I that's what led me to train NLP, because I thought, wow, like if I'm teaching this, I want to know it better. I want to understand it better. And the intrigue and the curiosity around it was so big, and I could see it. Like people wanted to be on stage because they felt not enough. They wanted that. It was so blatantly obvious to me. And I obviously had that as well. And then when I started speaking more here in Australia, I've been working on my speaking a lot and working with coaches and trainers and things. And I realized that when I was speaking and I'm sharing my story, I was like, fuck, like I feel like I'm still performing, I feel like I need to get this perfect and fucking like nail it and do it in a certain way the way that you've taught me. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that. And I started working with another mentor last year, and Miroslav Bardovic, and his work is all about embodiment. It's like bringing you back to your most authentic self as a speaker, not having to get it right. And it's not about perfection. It's about actually really being yourself. And so that journey has been really powerful for me, because in my loss of confidence, so it's more the weight that I've put on that has the first time I've experienced actually a loss of confidence within myself in gaining weight and not looking the way that I expect myself to be and how I think I should look and all of this. And I was hiding. I was like, I don't want to stand on the stage and look like this. I can't. Like people will not respect me and people will not regard me. Like this was the story that I was telling myself. And so kind of more recently, I've been really working on that de-armoring of my heart, because any of us, if we're asked to go and stand on the stage, we're going to perform, whether or not we come from a performance background or not, because I
think anytime we walk into a social situation, most people perform.
Totally. It's like, guard up. I need to be a certain way, the way that you think that I should be, and I need to whatever, right? Whatever we think we should be.
My perception of your perception of expectations of me.
Exactly. It's crazy, right? And so it was really confronting work, I tell you. It was like,
well, it's interesting because you've kind of, there's the other element to put in on a little bit of weight is the softening, right? Our tissue literally softens, especially if you've been chiseled. And because from the psychosomatic standpoint, someone who's extremely chiseled, we do look at it like an armoring, right? It is an armoring. And then it's a protection mechanism. And then the softness comes through, and it's that sensitivity that can now be felt, but it is more vulnerable. It does bring up those insecurities that have been potentially underneath everything for a while, but quite quiet in that. And I know a few people that go onto some big stages and things. And one of the things that I notice across the board is that everybody in this field kind of has a need for significance, right? That's the driving need. We want to know that our life has mattered, we've made a good impact, and we've left something behind. But, what is significance driven by?
Yeah, well, it can be driven by the need to feel enough or
absolutely
be loved or
But it's interesting because, like, for me, I have a similar story to what you shared. Like, my dad left. I was a bit older, but he left, and I've created the same kind of story off that. And it was many years later. I'd worked on my dad for like over 20 years, and I'm so grateful for his decisions now, because one of the things that I recognized through rebalancing my perceptions of all of that was that, he's always loved me, right? There's nothing to prove in that. But once I came to that awareness, it was sort of like, well, why am I doing all the things that I'm doing, right? Why am I contributing in the way that I'm contributing? So I had to go through that line of questioning. But then on the other side of that, what I recognize is that Dad was the access point to my life's path. And I think that a lot of speakers have that wounding as a young person in order to propel them forward, to have the courage to do the thing that is required of them in this life. And so what can often start as a wounding is transformed into the medicine, right? And then now we have opportunity for really beautiful, big growth. So I'm very excited for you, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the things I say to all my clients, and I remind myself, what I'm here to learn is what I'm here to teach.
Yeah, 100%, all of us.
Right? And it's exactly what it is. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, this has been such a fun, a fantastic conversation. I really have enjoyed having a chat with you today.
Likewise. It's been amazing.
Thank you so, so much. I would love to hear from you, how people can get in contact, what you've got going on, what's coming up. Let us know all your things.
Oh, amazing. You can find me on Instagram, the Judy King, and my website is www.thejudyking.com, and on Facebook, I am Judy King. And right now, my flagship program that I offer, or mastermind, is Embodied CEO. And so I do it in a way where doors are always open. It's not like there's no, my way of selling and my way of being is people will come in when they're ready, and there's no pressure to come in right now. Of course, I've just launched this week, but by the time you hear this, and I've kind of thrown some bonuses, but by the time you hear this, it's the doors are always open. So it's a space for women in business. You're either a rising entrepreneur, a scaling entrepreneur, or a seasoned entrepreneur, and you've just been building business from that hustle mentality, the force, the driving, pushing. Maybe you've tried all of the coaches and all the strategies before and nothing's working, and you feel like it's not working, or you've hit a plateau, and again, you know that you want to build your business in a new way. And maybe you don't have your time and you've kind of stuck working in your business, or not feeling fulfilled in the success that you've got. And so we, through that, I bring in human design and Gene Keys kind of interwoven through it all. And we look at your leadership and the patterns that you've got playing out, and really rework that. Recode is what the language I use. My background is NLP and hypnosis and somatic. So I weave all of those dynamics into the work to help really break the patterns so that you can start to allow yourself to slow down, allow yourself to rest. Because when we don't feel safe to do that, then we've got to work at that nervous system level and shift things very deep. And when we look at the magnetism, how we can actually market ourselves in a way that just feels really amazing and alive within us, and build a business model that's really long lasting and is an ecosystem that just feels really good. And then richness is the last part. And we look at it from all levels, and from investing to richness in fulfillment and joy and play, and how we can actually create a holistic life. And Embodied CEO is the mastermind that, if you're feeling like you want to be supported in that way, then with other women that are really invested, supporting each other. It's like, as coaches, as healers, as network marketers that are holding space for other people, when we are held by others, and sometimes that can be really confronting, but held by other women, is so nurturing and so nourishing, and so what we need. Like, we actually need community. We need people,
100%. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we are not lone wolves. We are pack animals.
Yeah. I was at Gabor Mate last week in Brisbane, and, again, reminders of how important it is to have people and be supported. And
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I love that. The sound of that program is absolutely phenomenal. And I think that, anybody who jumps in there is so lucky to be led by a woman who's living it and, is allowing that softening within herself and opening within herself. So amazing. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us today as well. And I will put all those links underneath, however you're listening to or watching this podcast episode. And yeah, really looking forward to continuing to watch your journey and see how it all unfolds.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much. You've given me so much value as well. I appreciate you and see you in the work that you do as well.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been my pleasure to have you here, and I just want to acknowledge you for spending the time to explore how to have more influence on your own life and be able to create the life that it is that you love. If you'd like to take this work further, you can do so by jumping onto my website at www.neridamills.com/masterclass and join me for my upcoming free 4-week masterclass, Time to Thrive, how to utilize your life as medicine to thrive. That's it from us. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.